Welcome back to Unwind, and we are joined now via our Zoom platform by Antonia Tika de Freitas. She is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. Good morning and welcome once again to Unwind. Antonia, you have been one of our first guests on the inaugural edition of Unwind on WES, and I do remember you here in studio.
Yes. Good morning, students. Thank you for having me, and good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Wonderful. Now, there are some major issues that I'm seeing cropping up, and one is some secondary school students, as reported in the Trinidad Guardian, and which would have been revealed at the Joint Select Committee on Education earlier this week, and that committee continues to sit. I think there are two more sittings scheduled for next week and perhaps the following week. But thus far, according to the report here, some students, secondary school students, are quitting classes and taking up jobs. And there are major challenges with the remote learning system for some primary school pupils, particularly. Now, both issues, they were aired, as I said, at the Parliamentary Committee, Social Service and Public Administration, which interviewed Education Ministry and education stakeholders on the hybrid learning system, which was implemented following the COVID-19 pandemic last year. And there are several other issues. It quoted some of the percentages of persons who are not accessing the online platforms for one reason or the other. Would you care to elaborate on some of what would have been mentioned here and from your own experience and the percentages with persons who are accessing the education being provided online?
Sure, no problem. In the first instance, the Ministry of Education provided certain statistics to the Joint Select Committee, very comprehensive. The number of students, the average, who did not access at all at the primary level was roughly 39,000. And those at the secondary, roughly 6, close to 7,000. Those at the ECCE level, roughly 2,000. So when you look at those numbers, you tell yourself that there's a large chunk of our student population who's not been connected. And that is because, as you mentioned, of a number of factors. One could very well be the lack of devices, the availability of devices to the students. Now, we have to remember that in some households, there may be only one device available, and the parent would use that, be it a smartphone or iPad or whatever. So it's when the parent comes home that the child may have access, and by that time, the school day has finished. Additionally, the issue of connectivity is still a challenge for teachers and for students, depending on location or depending on the capacity of the device to sustain the day's activities. So we find that these are two of the main reasons why children have not connected. We also have to remember, students, that the Ministry of Education proposed, and the teachers have been doing it, that students who have no access at all be given packages. So we have not factored in the number of students who were actually in receipt of packages and using the packages to do their learning. Now, you made the point that the statement was made at the JSC about students dropping out to work. That statistic, there was no statistic on that. The ministry did not put that statistic forward. That was actually a statement or a question asked by a member of the committee. And we would want to guard against promoting that particular concept, because we have to remember, if we are talking about school-age children, high school children, the law doesn't allow those children to work. There's a minimum age at which you can begin working.
Well, unless,
So
of
we
course,
need
there
to be
are
careful.
A-level students or persons who are 17 years and above.
Well, that was not specified at the committee hearing. But the fact of the matter is, if we are in a situation where our students have to earn income to support families, because we know there are many families who have been impacted by closure, by layoffs, and so forth, then it speaks to the issue of social support rather than simply looking at students who dropped out to work. What is the social support mechanism, that social net that we talk about, that is there to help these families to allow the students to continue their schooling? Because as you would well imagine, once you break that rhythm of being in school and studying and you do something else, it's very hard unless the child is very well self-disciplined to get back into the education system and function optimally.
Now,
So
one of the issues you raise here, which triggered something in my mind, because you talk about the student and the parent, but then very often in a household there are more than one student. There might be a student or two in secondary school in different forms. There might be a student as well in primary school. So then you have to have different devices for them because they will have different classes being conducted by their respective teachers and so on. So those are challenges that we face that I'm not sure that even some of those things are being taken. So while a household might have a device which might be shared among students, but having regard to the fact that very often you would have students in different tiers of education, it may, you may have to just allow one student to use it at a time, whereas the others might not be able to access during that simultaneous period the classes that are being offered to them online.
that is absolutely correct, Sue, that we have had a number of reports of such instances, students as low as the ECCE level as well. And of course, we have not factored in those students with special needs who will need a little more attention if they're in the online environment because their tactile ability to interact has been taken away or is suspended for the time being. What we recognize as well is that with the projected reopening of school, once the Ministry of Health gives it all clear and systems are in place, then the educators at different levels will still be challenged with the fact that one, their children will need supervision, will need devices, because as you said, in some instances, it might just be one device. And that is a reality for some of our educators. One device, educators using data. So when we project that we are reopening school in February for only the examination classes, which is all well and good, we have to bear in mind that there will be a tremendous number of students at home and the parents going out to work, yes, but in the instance where the parents have to go out to school to teach, or the parents have to teach lower forms, we are having some challenges with trying to reconcile and trying to work out that particular scenario for our members. So tutor met with the Ministry of Education on Wednesday, and we had very cordial discussions. We identified to the minister what our concerns were, why our general counsel felt that the press conference was necessary the week before. And at the end of it, the minister committed to working with the association, working with the union to deal with the issues that affect education and affect teachers, affect our education professionals. As you would have heard us mention, sections 63 and 74E of the Education Act speak to the fact that there is need for that consultation with the representative majority union on particular matters. So tutor maintained the position that even if we were part of stakeholder consultation with other stakeholders, which we have no problem with, there must be instances where you will meet and treat with the union alone on such critical matters as online engagement and the return to work.
Now, while you would have quoted from the Education Act, but the Industrial Relations Act as well, there are particular issues pertaining to bargaining, and you have had cause to hold a press conference recently which raised issue and complaint about the minister taking industrial relations decision which he is not authorized to do without any sort of a proper and adequate consultation under the IRA, Industrial Relations Act, and where tutor ordinarily would be negotiating or doing bargaining with the chief personnel officer. Would you care to elaborate a little bit on that?
Precisely. So as I indicated in the discussion, we made our point clear. You have to interact with the representative majority union, especially when you are looking at adjusting the terms and conditions of educators. So we had such discussions with the minister. Tutor also proposes to write to the chief personnel officer on some of these issues. I must remind that when the issue of remote teaching started in September last year, tutor did have a meeting with the CPO to discuss some of the situations that we saw would arise. So we will seek such a meeting again before teachers return to work. But as I said, we have the commitment of the minister, and we will hold her to her word that she will treat this tutor as per our status of the recognized majority union.
Now, with respect to the ongoing Joint Select Committee, the work of the Joint Select Select Committee, would tutor also be giving any sort of evidence before that committee in the next two hearings?
Yes, we were part of the hearing on Wednesday. We are due to be part of the hearing, I think it's on Friday the 5th, when we look at the issue of underachievement. So that continuously we will be making our submissions to the Joint Select Committee. We did our own bit of research on the impact of hybrid learning in terms of how it impacted teachers' work-life balance, which, as we've said, is not the best at this time, in terms of teacher performance, in terms of training. And these are some of the issues we raised with the minister and which we will put forward at this committee hearing.
What ideally you all are looking for in terms of training for teachers, additional training?
Well, the fact of the matter is no teacher would have been really trained in terms of how to deal with these circumstances for remote learning, for remote teaching. Whilst the Ministry of Education did run some programs in the initial stages, our teachers complained that it was more of a self-directed effort rather than dealing with education technology, dealing with assessment strategies in the virtual environment and so forth. So we are hoping that through collaboration with the ministry, we can have some of that training rolled out. Tutor as an organization did try to support our educators with our own programs last term, and we intend to continue with that this term. Our educators need the training, the support, the professional development in terms of how to utilize education technology to not only deliver content, but as I said, to deal with assessment of students in this modality.
Having said that, the issue of the CSEC and CAPE examination, which were contested, there was some challenges. There were some responses from the Caribbean Examination Council. Could you give us a sense of where we are with that? Is tutors satisfied with the eventual outcome, or are there underlying factors still at play?
Tutor is not satisfied with the eventual outcome, where I think is this week here, we heard that roughly 80% of queries had been resolved and so forth. When the organization, the Caribbean Union of Teachers, which represents teachers unions across the region, when we met with CUT just after the results came out, we made our position clear that as education unions, we didn't see the statement that teachers are responsible for the SBA grades as being valid, as being factual. CXC up to this point has not expressed any culpability or any remorse for what transpired. So at the level of the CUT, we took a decision to write to CXC making certain recommendations for the 2021 and 2022 examinations. We are awaiting feedback from CXC on that. We know that our Ministry of Education has been making lots of overtures to CXC as well on behalf of our local students, and we support that. So we are hoping that once the Ministry of Education receives the feedback from CXC and we get that information, we can collaborate on how best to deal with examinations in 2021 and 2022 respectively.
Now, I know you do have to run off to JTUM, that's the Joint Trade Union Movement Media Conference, which has to do with Patriotic's bid for the refinery. Is your involvement in that as part of JTUM commiserating with what many are considering to be a mama guy of monumental proportion for Ansel Rocher and the Oilfield Workers Trade Union? You are smiling. What's your involvement with that?
Unions will do, let me put it like this, unions will do what we have to do to represent the working class and to support our workers. But the press conference today said that whilst there may be some elements of a patriotic discussion in it, it is more to continue a campaign which JTUM and all the other trade union bodies started last week. That's the Unite to Fight campaign. We began that last Friday with a virtual rally, which was aired on social media. We had our motorcade, which was very successful on the Saturday. What we recognize, however, is that in some instances, there are some employers, there are some stakeholders who are using the cover of COVID to take actions against workers that they should not really be taking. that are against the IRA, that are against basic principles of natural justice, all in the sake of saying we want to continue making profits, we want to continue our business, but not caring about the workers so impacted. So the Unite to Fight campaign continues, and the press conference this morning is part of that rollout where we will have some of our union leaders speaking and reminding the public that Trinidad and Tobago was built on the back of trade unions. Trinidad and Tobago needs the support of the unions and the workers, and that we cannot simply do away with unionized environments in our workplace. There is legislation to protect that, and that the unions must be respected at all times.
And just finally, a worker, regardless or not, if they are unionized, they have the right to enlist or use any particular, go to any particular union to represent them in any matter whatsoever. Is that true? Is that not true?
We have unions in particular environments. So the Industrial Relations Act recognizes unions, and we have the
Not for
registration.
bargaining, but for dismissal and other issues. A person, if they are not represented by a union, can go to any union of choice.
The Industrial Relations Act gives you the facility that if you have an issue, you can approach a union for representation. Now, some unions have policies on that, but by and large, you can, as a worker, enter into a relationship with an organization, with a union for representation on matters. So at this time, student, I want to call on all union members, including our educators who are part of Tutor. Stand by your union. Pay attention to what they are saying, because we are here to support you.
On that note, well, we do have to leave it there. I know you have a very busy morning. Thank you very much, Antonia Tika de Freitas, the president of Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association. On that note, we take a brief break. When we come back, we have David Lee standby on our Zoom platform, and we also will be speaking with Simon de Nobrega with respect to what's taking place in the local elections, well, by-elections in the Alice Glen, Mount Coco area. We shall be right back after a brief break. Thank you.